Hello, today will be another off-topic review. I will talk about yet another portable retro handheld, and it will be an Anbernic R353, pretty recently released model with dual operation system, both Linux and Android one. First I want to speak a little bit. It will be probably the last in this series of 3 reviews, because I don't have any similar retro consoles coming to me. I'm waiting for a few models like Miu P60, probably horizontal Miu Mini if it will be released. There are a few interesting upcoming models. Of course, if Redroid will release the third version, I also probably will get it, but so far I don't know about other consoles I'd like to buy. There are a bunch of good options, but actually, Retroid Pocket and Miu Mini and this Anbernic, they covers like vast majority of needs. There are some other manufacturers like PavKiddy, for example, but they are often hit and miss. They do something great, but then failed miserably in something else. Anyway, I'd really like to review some more advanced consoles, like AIN, for example, models that they release, or even Steam Deck, but unfortunately it's really hard to get them because for example, this one I ordered this one from the Anbernic AliExpress, and it was just delivered by mail without any issues. It goes below our tax-free limit, but for example, AIN is above that tax-free limit, and I'll have to deal some paperwork, pay some tax, which are pretty high. And also AIN, for example, you pay now and you get your console in a few months. And we have work here, so I'm not sure what will be in a few months. So I don't want to invest in such a distant future. I'd like to review Steam Deck, but unfortunately I don't have an opportunity. The most affordable configuration costs about $1,000 here, because we don't have official import, but smugglers brought some, but they are crazy expensive. I was lucky enough to bought Nintendo Switch OLED for my birthday. It was in January, and actually it was a great purchase. It saved my sanity at the early stages of war, because it helped me to distract. But let's go back to this Anbernic, and it's the most recent model by this company that has dual operation system, both Linux and Android. It builds on well, it's hard to say that this chip is new. It's relatively new. It's new for Anbernic. It's Rock chip 3566. Not a power monster, of course, but more powerful than previous generations of their handhelds, except of their two plus $100 model. And as usual, it's always like when it would be great if you get something from this console, add from another, and get something else. But anyway, so it's pretty pricey by measures of this price segment. It costs $140, and if you want a micro SD card filled with contrafact games and screen protector case, you'll have to pay more. Actually, I've got extended version. I've got hard case for portability, screen protector, and that card, and so on. I always thinking that you can draw some similarity between the player manufacturers and, for example, this handheld console manufacturers, and for me, Anbernic is maybe kind of fear, because they're creating really good price to quality offers, paying attention to some nuances that other companies doesn't. I will do some comparisons later, but in this video I will focus purely on this device. So, as you can probably see, it came in box, and this box is much more advanced than other companies do. You can see that it's 5 GHz Wi-Fi and Android 11 and so on. But package is pretty nice, short manual here and so on. Inside of the box you're getting this console itself, charging cable, and short manual with information, and here was that micro SD card. I already put it inside of this console, and hard case will show in the next part of video. Forgot to bring it before filming. In terms of design, it's pretty good. It has a proper size, it's a bit bigger than many people will prefer, and it's not super pocketable. Let me compare it in terms of size with gold standard with Retroid Pocket. As you can see, it's slightly bigger than Retroid, but from another hand, actually it's really good in terms of usability and comfort. So it feels really good in hands when the console is pretty small, like it was with Miu Mini, for example. You always have some problems finding the position of fingers, how to hold it well, how to trigger shoulder buttons. But here everything is just goes smoothly, at least for my hand size. You just grip it, you're getting the nice grip, and actually all your fingers goes to necessary buttons. So shoulder buttons are easily reachable, they are really easy to toggle. On the back side they have their signature rubber pads to improve hold, but actually in this case they do nothing. So my middle fingers rest on these rubber parts, but actually if there even were no these rubber pads, it didn't change anything. And let's go with controls disposition. On the bottom side there are two micro SD slots, so this one is for the operation system and second one is for the content, and it's really convenient move from the Anbernic, because instead of flashing their consoles you can just swap micro SD cards and boot different firmwares. And actually there already are some third-party firmware for these consoles. And headphones output. Also there are two speakers. They are stereo here, but actually quality is just average, so even to my taste probably a bit worse than Retroid, but for the portable console pretty okay. On top there are shoulder buttons, so R1 and L1 and L2, R2. They are pretty soft, easy pressable, and probably they are fixed here, so this side's pressing simpler than here. But anyway, in regular playback they are easy accessible. And trigger buttons are located here. They also are angled, because usually when, for example, with Switch, when you press it, it presses this way, like forward, and here it presses like sidewise. It's slightly different in terms of usability, but they are soft, and in general buttons here are noticeably softer comparing, for example, with Retroid, and they offers a bit different layout. So let me bring Retroid here to do some comparisons. For example, here D-pad is below and stick is above, so like Retroid hints us that it's created for more modern games. But here D-pad is on top and sticks are below, and I'd like them to be a bit higher, closer to the top side, because when you pressing the sticks it's a bit hard to get to the shoulder buttons, and you need to stretch fingers a little bit, but still it's a pretty usable configuration. In general the distance is not that big. I'd like it to be smaller, but still okay. D-pad is really good, actually button press is really softer than Retroid offers. Retroid actually has stiff buttons, and there are two full-featured analog sticks, so not this sliding thing like here, just two full sticks, and actually they are even pressable, so you can get L3 and R3. Also there are 4 regular buttons, and as you can see this version is SNES inspired in terms of colors, but there are a few other color versions you can get, and also additional buttons, so select and start, on and function button that sometimes works as back and sometimes offers another features. And also here is a LED indicator that shows you charge and so on. Also here is sensor screen. It's 640 by 480. Not, of course, super resolving, but for retro gaming it's probably the perfect resolution and probably one of the closest to perfection in terms of screen ratio. And it boot ups and it's built-in Linux operation system. Really convenient, fast, really responsive, and so on. Speaking about battery lifetime, you'll get from 4 to 6 hours or so, of course depending on what system you'd like to emulate, because there is a big difference in terms of power load. Actually, the more I try, probably the more I stick to Game Boy Advance games, because they're fitting perfectly for these consoles. But of course this thing can do a lot more. Forgot to describe you the content of the top side. Here is volume buttons, HDMI out, reset button, and 2 USB Type-C sockets, so 2 microSDs, 2 USB Type-Cs. This one is for charging and this one for connecting different peripherals, mainly some third-party game controller. And I also promised to show you how the case looks like. As you see, it's pretty generic case. I've seen such cases many times before. For players, for headphones, it's oftenly used. And as a bonus here they put HDMI cable. But still a pretty good accessory to have if you're going to travel with your console. I won't talk much about Android here, it just works. To boot up to Android you just remove the microSD card from this slot and turn it on, and by default it boots up to Android. They even add some wallpaper with game thematics, so actually let's turn the screen brightness to maximum. As you can see, brightness level is okay. Maybe under the bright sun it will be not super visible, but in general it's pretty nice, clean and crisp screen. And what I really like, it responds to the touches pretty well. So let's probably do some size comparison. Let me go back. In general, screen size is more or less the same, but here I like slightly better response to the touch. There is no Google Play Store by default, but I think that it can be added here. I didn't dig into this direction. And they've added a bunch of popular emulators here. DuckStation, no, that's definitely not what I wanted to do. DuckStation, Game Boy emulators, PP, SSPP, and many others. And they works. I won't describe how to tweak them all and so on. There are a lot of video reviews about this thing and about setting up Android emulators in particular. Actually, there are a lot of much better reviews than I do on YouTube, but thank you for watching me and letting me an opportunity to share my subjective opinion. So basically Android is working here, and in some cases like PlayStation Portable, for example, it works a bit better than Linux based ones, because probably PP, SSPP is just a better emulator. But it's more of my assumption. More interesting actually and more oftenly used operation system is Linux based one. I will show you it now. Custom operation system built by Anbernic based on Linux and Retro Arch actually is the operation system where I spend most of time. It's convenient, it's easy, and it's definitely is a great choice for those who are not familiar with tech really well, and for those who don't want to spend time tweaking everything and every single aspect. Here almost everything is working just out of the box. You boot up, you see the pretty nice colorful menu that you can navigate with D-pad, with sticks. Basically you can navigate it almost all ways you'd like. A for go inside, B for go back, and actually settings here is just really minimalistic because main settings they hid in different place. And here you can see the different systems that they offer emulation out of the box for this operation system and the amount of games they put on this micro SD card. So if you're okay with using illegal content, it would be a great option for you. I won't use it because it's still illegal. I use only the images that for the games I own on the physical media. I know that it's still not legal from the law's perspective, but I think it's fair use because I own this game and I can play it in the emulation. Of course, greedy game creators would like to have a bit more money, but unfortunately many games I can't purchase in any other way besides of physical media. So I've got this micro SD card because I wanted to get a case and screen protector, and they have the only option with this card. I won't use it. But in general, for many people I think it would be a great option. As you can see, a menu is bright, colorful, with a lot of different systems to emulate, and actually main settings menu is hidden under the start button, like in games. They even add the Kodi Media Center if you want to use some multimedia files. But in general there are a lot of options, but I don't think you'll need to tweak a lot of them because they have really reasonable default settings. Just look at manual how to use this functional button with different combinations in the emulators. But if you'd like, you can tweak a lot of different aspects. For example, you can activate retro achievements using Wi-Fi, or even try some network play for games and emulator cores that support it. Controller settings, UI settings, here you can select few different themes, for example, and tweak some options you'd like. But in general, as I already said, in my opinion, I think it's pretty good and conveniently tweaked by default. And you just can find your preferable game system, lot of them, and just start playing. So after a few seconds of loading, it boots up and just basically works. I'm not good at vertical shmups, but let's add more coins. It's great when you don't have to add real coins. Select one of them and I don't remember exactly which button. Yeah, remembered. And as you can see, it just works. Out of the box you can definitely start playing games without going to some arcade machines or something like that. So now I will show you a few examples of game systems it can emulate, because you know all reviews of such handhelds need it. I'm not really great in bullet hell shmups, so I will lose here really fast. Of course, every single review of such console won't be complete without few examples. For example, NES, one of the most popular and most favorite games of our childhood. Battle City. Of course, it's simple, small game, works perfectly without any buts. But of course, something much more complex is also not an issue here. Definitely. Of course, it has zero problems with Super Nintendo. I don't know, have you played Shredder's Revenge or not, but it's definitely a great game. I really recommend everyone. And it showed that nostalgia can be well monetized. I've seen the news that it was sold in the amount of more than 1 million of copies, which is pretty good for retro beat 'em up. But of course, let's don't forget where it started, and here is Turtles in Time. Actually, when it started, and I really like that joke in the new Shredder's Revenge, they have level named Big Apple 3 PM, while this one is Big Apple 3 AM. One of my most favorite systems for the emulation, it's Game Boy Advance, because it was like perfect middle when hardware was okay enough to give you decent graphics, but at the same time screens were small and makers had to optimize games for small screens, so it's perfectly matching this relatively small screens of portable handheld consoles, at the same time giving you a really good gameplay and nice pleasant graphics. Here is another example, Capcom's third version of arcade machines. Really good Street Fighter experience, without any issues, without any problems. Smooth, solid, fluid, and taking into account that it requires even 2 coins for play, I'm really glad that you can insert coins just by pressing the select button, not by using your real money. PlayStation 1 works really well, without any issues or noticeable lags. I didn't try all games, but those that I'd like to emulate works really nice, but actually it's pretty expectable, because in terms of hardware, first PlayStation was not really something advanced, but it was great for that time and definitely gave us few really popular games. Let's talk about some more complicated systems, for example Nintendo 64, and F-Zero is basically playable. There are few hiccups and interruptions in the music, but in general game is more or less playable and works pretty okay. Not absolutely great performance, but in general I can say that Nintendo 64 is working. So I'm not great in this game, but actually I'm not familiar with Nintendo 64 at all. So here is Sega's Dreamcast. Pretty smooth, actually Retroid is slightly smoother and a bit faster here, but also here under the Android OS you can get pretty good performance with some tweaking. But in this Linux based version it's also pretty okay and working normally, so you can enjoy some of few titles created for this console. Performance is not perfect, but pretty acceptable and playable. PlayStation Portable actually is a good example where more advanced processor of Retroid shows better performance. Actually it plays pretty okay, especially if you boot to Android and tweak some advanced options. Actually, you know, I was wrong. Previously I said that PPSSPP works only under Android mode, but actually here it also used PPSSPP, but under Android it shows a bit better performance anyway. And so you can tweak some options to get slightly better performance, but Retroid runs PlayStation Portable with less frame drops and a bit smoother. So, to summarize, if you looking for some portable handheld console to play games up to PlayStation 1, and if you don't want Dreamcast, PlayStation Portable, Nintendo GameCube and different more recent consoles, it will be a great option. Or if you're okay that not all games on more recent consoles will work perfectly. It's also really, Anbernic offers you a really great value, because buttons are smooth, layout is great, and for Nintendo, Super Nintendo, Game Boy Advance and other systems like that, it's a really great option. But if you need better performance for the GameCube, Dreamcast, Saturn and so on, you need to look at the Retroid Pocket 2 Plus, or even more advanced, more expensive consoles like Iron or some other models. But if you're looking for a really retro experience, Anbernic offers a really good value and really good usability. Thank you for watching, and of course have a great day.